Today's topic may not be suitable for younger viewers. Accordingly, parental supervision is advised. Modern society faces rising rates of early risky sex, abortions, gender dysphoria, and sexually transmitted infections or STIs that can maim and even kill. The biblical model of enjoying sex within marriage will avoid most of these problems. However, young people may enter marriage having not necessarily followed the ideal. So how can we tell if we have a problem? And what can be done about it? Stand by, Go Healthy for Good starts right now. Hello and welcome to Go Healthy for Good. There are times in life when we can feel that we are stuck in a rut, and that's exactly what happened to Karen. Here's her story. Watch.
I wasn't feeling very well. I was on a path that wasn't very good for me. I can see that now. I had a sedentary lifestyle. I wasn't exercising much. I was drinking too much alcohol. Bad diet. So I was eating anything and everything, like, hamburgers, chips, fish, meat, all that kind of stuff. I came here with a number of aches and pains and conditions. I had really high blood pressure. I had cholesterol, high cholesterol. I had very bad menopausal symptoms. I had a bit of jaw pain, I had chest pain, I had very dry skin. I had problems with my knees. I think that felt like I was a ticking time bomb for a heart attack or stroke or both. I didn't feel very well at all. I felt really bad. The menopausal symptoms were it kind of even making me think I needed to sign myself into a menstrual institution because I wasn't coping. I refused to take HRT because I'd heard that it can cause cancer. So I refused it. I didn't want to have it. And I felt everything just felt overwhelming and everything felt really hard and bad for me. And I'm just really thankful and grateful that I was able to come here. I wanted to be better. I wanted to get rid of the problems that I had. I wanted to get rid of the high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and I needed to get rid of that because I knew that having high blood pressure is really bad and you can have a heart attack or a stroke. I knew that high cholesterol is really bad for you because that compounds to that problem. So I guess I wanted to become well. I became quite lazy and just went to work and came home, and desk job, sitting at my desk, not moving, not doing anything. Come home, I'm tired, I just want to eat, sit in front of the TV, and that was my routine, that was my life. I want to have a good life in the future, I want to live well, and I didn't want to die. I wanted to keep living, and also want to live a good life in the future.
And the future can start right now. On today's show, our exercise coach will motivate us to move more. Karen shares the rest of her story. Our expert guest will educate us about sexual health problems, but first up, the news. In the headlines today, quick get up and move. Lifestyle protects against Alzheimer's, and middle-aged type 1 diabetics should avoid extremes. Low levels of physical activity and high levels of sedentary time are associated with higher risks of disease and death. But what about those of us who go to the gym and work out most evenings yet sit in the office all day? How much physical activity is needed to overcome the sedentary job? Well, researchers at the School of Sports Sciences in Norway combined the results of 9 studies involving almost 45,000 people over 4 to 15 years and found that 30 to 40 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity a day attenuates the association between sedentary time and risk of death. This is lower than previous estimates, but is still more physical activity than the average person gets. So let's get up and move at least 10 minutes morning, noon and night. A healthy lifestyle has a positive impact on brain health. A new study of adults aged 50 to 73 who were free of dementia at the start of the study were asked about family history of dementia and if they practiced each of 6 healthy behaviours. These included a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, low in meat and refined grains, regular exercise, not drinking excessively, not smoking, being a normal weight, and sleeping 6 to 9 hours a day. 1,700 of the 300,000 participants developed dementia during the next 8 years. Those with a family history of dementia had a 70% increased dementia risk. Following all 6 healthy lifestyle behaviours reduced dementia risk by almost 50%, compared to those following 2 or less. Those following at least 3 behaviours had about 30% reduced dementia risk. Just more evidence that genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. Severe hypo and hyperglycemic episodes are correlated with increased risk for dementia in older adults with type 1 diabetes, say authors of a longitudinal cohort study. 2,800 people were followed an average of 7 years, beginning around 56 years of age. Those whose health records showed severely low blood sugar levels were 66% more likely to develop dementia. Those with severely high blood sugar levels were 110% more likely. However, there was a 600% greater risk for dementia among those with both severe highs and severe lows. So if you have type 1 diabetes, give your brain a boost and optimise your sugar control. I'm Dr. Nerida McKibben, and that's today's health news. Today's show deals with STIs, and the sensitive topic may not be suitable for younger audiences. Our expert guest is Dr. Jane Morgan, sexual health specialist, and I asked her to outline some of the common symptoms of STIs.
So I guess for most people, the most common situation that we come across is that people don't have symptoms. So for infections like chlamydia, then that generally, most people, that's something that they carry but are unaware of. But if people are going to get symptoms, then that tends to be a change in their vaginal discharge, possibly a change in their periods and how they're with irregular bleeding rather than a regular cycle. Women might notice that they bleed after sex. And for men, it tends to be that there's a discomfort when they're passing urine and possibly more wetness. So again, what we call discharge. And that's what I mean when I use the word discharge, is there's a more wetness than people wouldn't normally notice.
So it can be really subtle.
Very much so. Mm-hmm.
And how long after they become infected will they notice those symptoms, if they're going to get symptoms at all?
So with each infection, it varies, and that might be as quick as 2 or 3 days. So with one of the infections that we've been seeing quite a lot of recently, called gonorrhea, then typically people get symptoms about 3 or 4 days after acquiring the infection. But it might be several weeks, and as I've said, some people don't get symptoms, so may not realise at all.
Mm. So what about lumps and bumps? People often notice something different down there and become quite concerned. What does that mean?
My immediate thought is, and Dr. Google will tell you that's automatically warts. So if you type in painless lump, then Google will tell you that it's genital warts. And that's definitely something that we would want people to get checked out. But there can be a lot of other skin lumps and bumps there, whether that's just something like a simple skin tag. There are other viral skin conditions. There's one called molluscum, which is quite common in children. So if you're looking after small kids, that can then be a viral infection you have on your hands that you then transfer to yourself. So I think it's, if people are concerned, then seeing a clinician and having that checked out is very worthwhile. But actually, and I would say increasingly, so it's now about 10 years since we've had the Hpv vaccine, and the Hpv vaccine. There are different variations of the vaccine, but most of the variations protect against genital warts. So actually, over the last 10 years, we're seeing fewer and fewer and fewer cases of genital warts.
Right. So let's go into what are warts? What causes them?
So genital warts are caused by predominantly 2 strains of the same virus. The virus, we abbreviate to HPV, which stands for human papillomavirus. And the most common strains of that are number 6 and 11 when it comes to genital warts.
So they're different to the warts we get on our fingers, on our feet.
Yeah, so usually hand warts and foot warts are strains 1 to 4. And like, so this virus has so many, there are so many different strains. So there are about 40 that infect the genital area, but there are several hundred of HPV strains altogether. So they have numbers rather than individual names.
We're very gland for that, right? We would never remember hundreds of names. So yes. So
typically,
ones,
particularly the ones on the hands and the feet, tend to be numbers 1 to 4. Genital warts tends to be numbers 6 and 11. So that's over 90-95% of genital warts will be those strains.
Now, do they need treatment? How do you treat them?
So mainly they're from a medical point of view, they're more really I want to say the word cosmetic because they don't look nice, but psychologically they have quite a big impact on people. They feel really dirty and they feel ashamed and they really don't like having them. So it's more, we treat them more for the emotional distress rather than what they're going to do to someone's body, because numbers HPV 6 and HPV 11 are actually quite benign. And by benign, I mean they don't cause physical harm to the body. So they don't itch, they don't irritate, they're just there.
They're just making a nuisance of themselves. More from Dr. Morgan in the next segment, and right after the break, Colton will get us on the move.
Hey my friends, I'm Colton, your coach, and today we're talking about cardio. So let's get moving. We're gonna start with some butt kicks, just taking those heels up to our cheeks. Here to my right, we have Angelo. Angelo's gonna be demonstrating some of the options for today. If you want some more challenging work, Yuna here to my left is gonna be doing some more challenging options. So Yuna, why don't we pick that up a little bit, make it a little bit more challenging? That looks a little bit better. So cardio team is about getting that heart rate elevated, getting that blood flowing throughout the body. Why is that important? We'll talk about that soon. Let's get into our high knees now, team. Bringing those knees up in front, starting nice and slow. Don't worry about hugging the knee, but you know what you're about to do, right? Once those legs are nice and warm, let's take it up a notch. There we go, come on, double time, double time. Let's move, let's move, let's move. You can do faster than that. Pop, 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 pop. There we go, that's better. All right, team. Now, cardio, elevating the heart rate. How often should we be doing this? Our goal is 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous activity per week. So this is in addition to moving every day, we also want to get that heart rate up when we're moving. Team, it's time for jumping jacks. Over here, your option, if we shouldn't be jumping, if that's not appropriate for our joints today, we can just step it side to side. You know you're doing the full version. Thank you for not smacking me in the head. I appreciate that. I'll step out of your way. So, when we do that cardio, what are we doing for our bodies? Guys, we're doing amazing things for our bodies. We are increasing our life expectancy. We are improving our quality of life, and we are decreasing something called all-cause mortality. That literally means your chances of dying from basically everything. That's why they call it all-cause mortality. So cardio is so good for your quality of life and your length of life. We want it in our lives. Team, let's move into some skaters. So skaters going from one foot to the other, only one foot on the ground ever, because while working cardio, we're also working on our stability and balance. That means if you ever make a misstep, you're more likely to catch yourself instead of falling and injuring yourself or breaking an ankle. Yours looks too easy. Can we up that a little bit? That's a little bit better. Now we're gonna be alternating between this exercise and another one. The other one's called Transverse Hops. It's a fancy name for just saying kind of hopping in place, just twisting. If anybody's ever done the twist, that's what we're doing here. You'll notice, go ahead and switch guys. Angelo's gonna leave his feet on the ground and just pivot. He's gonna do the twist again. And Yuna's gonna take it up a little bit, taking those feet up off the ground. A little bit more intense, a little bit more challenging that way. Team, this is your active recovery, so hope it feels easy because we're about to go back to skaters. In 3, 2, 1, skate it out. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be doing 20 seconds of skaters, 10 seconds of those transverse hops back and forth. And as we do it, elevating that heart rate during those skaters, may bring it back down a little bit during those transverse hops, but never too far. Let's go ahead and hit those hops in 3, 2, 1. Hop and twisting it side to side. Pivot for Ange, hops for Yuna. That's it. See, guys, I love that I don't have to talk and do this at the same time today. Normally I have to do everything. Today they were nice and gave me some friends to help me out today, so I don't have to sound so breathless while I'm talking to you. Guys, skaters, 3, 2, 1, skaters. So again, at home, you can either step or hop. Listen to your body. If something hurts when you're doing this, switch to this. That said, you can step instead of jumping without taking it as easy as Angelo is doing right now. You can always step a little quicker, Angelo. Don't be afraid to work hard. We need to get that heart rate up. A little quicker, a little quicker, a little quicker. That's better. 3, 2, 1, transverse hops. Angelo, do you want to die young?
No.
Do you want to reduce your risk of dying from all causes?
Yes.
All right, let's get that heart rate up. 3, 2, 1, skaters. Looks better. You know, I can hear you. I can hear you working hard over there. It looks good, it looks good. So as you're doing this, sometimes when we're working hard and getting a little bit breathless, form can start to degrade. So what we need to make sure, you know, is that our spine's not starting to round, right? Pick up that posture again, make sure that core is turned on. 3, 2, 1, let's go into those transverse hops. I don't know if that was 20 full seconds. I felt bad looking at Eunice's face just then, but I think it was long enough. You feeling it yet? Oh yeah? You know? You got the easy job, right? Yeah. Let's go back in 3, 2, 1, skaters. We're almost done, team. Hang on, we're gonna do one more round and then we'll be finished. Can you move a little quicker without jumping, Ange? Maybe take a little bit smaller of a step, but make it twice as fast. Oh yeah, there we go. There, I can't even see the feet anymore. You're moving so quick. All right, team, we get to go into those hops in 3, 2, 1, hop it out. And then maybe just shake it out. Shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. Team, great work today, my friends. Remember, 150 minutes a week is our goal, at least 10 minutes at a time, getting that heart rate elevated. That improves your heart health, your cardiovascular health. We're gonna reduce our risk of all kinds of diseases, improve that life expectancy, and especially that quality of life. So live longer and better years. Great work, my friends. I'm Coach Colton. Remember, more is possible for you. Commit to making small changes in your life, and we'll give you the tools you need to be healthier, happier, and fit for a purpose. Your purpose.
Thanks, Colton. It's invigorating to get up and move, as Karen also found out in today's story. She was stuck in a rut, not living the good life, and menopause was taking a serious toll on her general well-being. Watch.
My father, he got cancer at age 63, and they gave him 3 months to live. So a friend of mine, she had breast cancer at the same time, and she saw a naturopath in Melbourne who gave her a book. And my father, she gave the book to my father, and my father read the book. And he started implementing things in the book. So he stopped eating meat, he stopped eating dairy, he stopped eating sugar, he stopped eating wheat. The nurses got really upset with him, but my father's a very stubborn man. If he sets his mind to something, he will do it. He will just do it. So he had chemotherapy and he had radiotherapy, and he started juicing twice a day. He didn't stop smoking straight away, no meat, no dairy, no sugar, and he juiced twice a day, and he juiced anything and everything, and he lived another 21 years. So I was witness to that. I saw what happened to my father and how he was able to help himself. So it was always in the back of my head. So I guess I wanted to become well. So I came here in the hope of getting better. When I left here, I followed the program religiously for 3 months. I did everything that I was supposed to do for 3 months. I got up at 6:30 in the morning. I exercised for 40 minutes. I had my lemon water. I had my good breakfast. I cooked my good breakfast, had a good lunch. I had perfect diet and exercise. And I was taking the cream for about 3 months, and I noticed a big difference of how some of my symptoms had eased back. Not gone totally, but eased back. I continued on the program, but winter came in where I live, and it was really cold to get up at 6:30 in the morning because of the frost. So a couple of things sort of fell back, but I still tried to have a very good diet, and I threw out all my salt, I threw out all my pepper, I threw out a lot of packet foods, a lot of packet stuff, and started following much more of a vegetarian diet. Yeah, did that. I'm exercising a lot more. I have joined a walking group back home where I come from. So we go on regular walks, and I love walking. And we walk roughly about 12 kilometres, 10 kilometres. So I've really enjoyed walking, and I'm continuing to do that. And yes, I really enjoy it. Love walking. So that's been a positive thing as well about the exercise, about finding ways of how you can put more exercise into your life. So it's really great. So it's been a positive effect that I've found a way of enjoying and doing exercise. Yeah, incorporating that part of the 8 laws of health into my life now.
What a great turnaround. We are recommending parental supervision for today's show since we're discussing sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. Today's guest, Dr. Jane Morgan, is a specialist in this field, and in the last segment she explained how human papillomavirus, or HPV, strains number 6 and 11 cause genital warts, which can be a big nuisance. I asked if other strains can be even more serious and harmful.
So for years, we were very focused on women with warts and thinking that those with genital warts were much more likely to have cervical cancer. And it took quite some time before we realised that it's a different strain of HPV that is linked to cervical cancer. So the viruses that are the numbers that are more typically associated with cancers would be number 16, number 18, and there are others. There are actually about 9 that have been linked to causing cancer. The genital wart strains aren't those, but what it does highlight to us is that if somebody has genital warts, then maybe they've been exposed to the other strains as well.
Right, and those other strains are implicated in like 100% of cervical cancer and 90% of vaginal cancer, even 25% of throat cancer. So let's explore the vaccine now. Does the vaccine cover 6 and 11? Will it prevent those warts coming, or is it more for these other cancer-related HPV strains?
So there is most of the formulations of vaccine that are available also protect against 6 and 11. And I think that probably came down to a marketing decision from the vaccine company of thinking, well, a teenager having this vaccine will be focused on wanting to prevent themselves getting warts and may not be thinking about a cancer that develops 10 or 15 years later. Right. So they do protect, which is why we're seeing such a drop in genital warts as people become sexually active. But the main focus of the vaccine is as a cancer-preventing vaccine.
So what age group should people get the vaccine?
So ideally before 15. So 15 is quite a magic number. It's to do with our immune system. So it's not about people becoming sexually active at 15, far from it. And in fact, the evidence suggests that young people are putting off becoming sexually active more and more. So that, that young people are increasingly responsible. But it's about how well our immune system responds to the vaccine. So before the age of 15, someone needs 2 doses.
Just 2?
Just 2 for years of protection. But after the age of 15, they need 3. And it may actually be that it's strong enough that people only need 1, although that's still debatable. But it's, the immune response to it before someone turns 15 is so much stronger. So it's preferable, strongly preferable that young people have this vaccine around between 12 to 15, rather than waiting later and then needing more of the vaccine.
Is there any value in having it later in life? Is there any time where it's too late to have it?
Well, it's been studied because one of the situations that we've increasingly come across are people coming out of long-term relationships and then wondering, what does this mean for me? If I am having a new sexual partner and getting into a new relationship, should I look at this protection? There is value, the immune response to it isn't as strong. So the immune response to the vaccine isn't as strong when we're older, and it's being tested up to the age of 45. So I will say to people, look, it's something to consider, but definitely what we want to push is the younger the better.
In the next segment, Dr. Jane Morgan will discuss genital ulcers, but I'll be back in a few minutes to answer your questions, so stand by.
What's for dinner tonight? Well, you might want to add something to the menu. A simple green salad. This small addition could make a big difference. You see, recently the Adventist mortality study found that people who ate green salad had lower all-cause mortality. In other words, those who regularly enjoyed raw, leafy greens lessened their risk of death. Isn't that reason enough to add a salad to your dinner plans? A green salad is another ageless advantage.
I love getting your questions. And so it's question time now. What is the difference between IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis? Well, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are types of inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD. That causes ulcers and inflammation in the digestive tract. They're quite serious. Crohn's can attack any part of the digestive tract, and whereas ulcerative colitis involves just the colon or the large bowel. Irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, involves only the colon, causes no ulcers, no lesions, relates more to abnormal activity of the bowel, the muscles, the nerves that control the intestines. So there is an overlap in symptoms, but the diagnosis and the treatments are very different. Another person asked, please can you explain the different stages of colon cancer? Well, colon cancer uses the TNM staging system. T means tumour thickness, N is whether it has invaded local lymph nodes, and M is for metastasis or distant spread. So stage 0 is cancer that's in its earliest stage. It's a microscopic tumour confined to the mucosal lining of the bowel. It hasn't grown beyond the inner layer, so there are no nodes, no distant spread. Whereas a 4C at the other end of the spectrum is a cancer that's spread to distant parts of the peritoneal cavity that lines the abdomen, and it's a large tumour that's visible. Paula asks, is there a treatment for warts? Well, for genital warts, you need to see your doctor. For warts elsewhere, the treatment is often a wart paint that makes the wart smaller and less uncomfortable. 70% of warts will resolve within 12 weeks of daily application. So you're in for the long haul. It does take a long time to treat warts that way. Your doctor can just burn them off. So if you're going to treat them yourself, soften the wart by soaking it in the bath or in a bowl of hot soapy water first. Rub the wart surface with a piece of pumice if it's on your foot or on your fingers, or an emery board, and then apply the wart paint because that will make the paint more invasive. Paint accurately because it will damage the normal skin around it, and include a small rim of normal skin, but not too far out. Allow the paint to dry before covering it with a plaster or some duct tape, and the next day remove the old tape, the dead surface of the skin layer with pumice stone again, and reapply the paint or the paste. So it's quite a tricky process. If the wart paint makes the skin sore, give it a little break, allow the discomfort to settle in that normal skin to just recover. Thanks for those questions. If you have something you want to ask, then get in touch using the contact details on the screen. Now, let's head outdoors for some fresh air, sunshine, and fresh produce. The apple tree is thought to have originated in the area between the Caspian and the Black Sea, which happens to be where Noah's Ark came to rest. The tree was first introduced to New Zealand by the missionary Samuel Marsden in 1819, and it was a very smart move because it has turned out that New Zealand is one of the best countries in the world for growing apples. Production per acre is almost 3 times higher than the world average. Their waxy skin conveys a long shelf life, and it comes, of course, in red, green or gold. In fact, there are 7,500 varieties worldwide, ranging from sweet to tart, from crunchy and crisp to soft. Apples contain a number of plant compounds, including quercetin, vitamin C, and flavonoids, which combine to reduce inflammation, lower the risk of type 2 diabetes, lessen the risk of asthma, slow aging, protect against cardiovascular disease, and even cancer. So perhaps the old proverb that an apple a day keeps the doctor away might be true after all. So snack on a crunchy apple instead of a crinkly bag, and bon appetit. Today's topic may not be suitable for younger viewers, as we're talking today with Dr. Jane Morgan, a specialist in sexual health. I asked her what it may mean to have an ulcer in the genital region.
So probably the commonest thing that we come across as causing an ulcer down there would be genital herpes. We do come across other less common scenarios, like there's an unusual infection called syphilis, which we are seeing more of recently. Typically it's genital herpes. And I guess the other thing to say is that do people, when you and I talk about an ulcer, we have quite a specific visual image of what that might look like. So for someone checking themselves, they might not realize that we could be talking about something as subtle as a little skin split.
Right.
That literally, something that you might think was a cut, or, that you've maybe scratched yourself with a fingernail, that it's a small raw area.
But it can be very painful,
and it can, yes. And I guess it's the same as if you have a paper cut on your finger and it's excruciatingly painful.
Yeah.
So the
pain is greater than what you see.
Yes. And that usually is quite indicative of something like an infection like genital herpes. They're really tender. They're really uncomfortable.
Now, herpes is a virus.
Yes.
Can you ever get rid of it?
Unfortunately not. But there are lots of things that we carry inside us. So people might be familiar with the concept of having a cold sore when they're a child, and that if their immune system is strong and they're healthy, then they don't get continued flare-ups with their cold sores. And genital herpes is just another strain of a similar virus. So we can't cure it, but we can give medication to help people to make sure that their symptoms are well controlled. And lots of advice about looking after yourself and having,
keeping your immune system strong. How contagious is genital herpes?
So it's not so contagious that I'm going to get that from, like say sharing a bath towel with someone. It literally is. I have to rub up against someone else's skin when they've got a lesion. So if
that lesion is shedding the virus,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. So it's the lesion or the raw area, the ulcer, that has active virus in it. So when we rub against that, and even then, it's more likely if our own skin is broken. So it's so like if someone has a cold sore on their face, then it would be more like if you kiss somebody with that. If you also have tears in your own skin, then it's more likely that the virus is going to get in. And actually, most people who know that they've got genital herpes will avoid being intimate at a time that they have symptoms.
Because that's when they're shedding.
They're shedding.
But it's also when they're a bit sore too.
And when they're sore, yeah. Whereas, so most of the people that I see with new infection, it's from a partner who didn't realise that they had an infection.
Which can happen with a painless recurrence or a flare. That's why some couples always use condoms to prevent the uninfected spouse catching the virus that has no cure. Now consider what action you would have to take to protect your family if you lived in Egypt at the time of the 10th plague. As the final deadly plague was about to fall on Egypt, God gave the children of Israel instructions on how to effectively vaccinate themselves from the approaching epidemic. They were to kill a lamb, take that blood, and apply it to the doorposts of their house. Strangely, that death would guarantee them life. The lamb would actually die for them, just as Jesus died for you and me. Likewise, his blood can inoculate us from the deadly consequence of sin. His death guarantees us life, and that's only if we accept his sacrifice. It's a tragedy when someone dies from the effects of a viral infection like HPV or COVID, but it's an even greater tragedy when someone dies outside of Christ, because that's a forever death. when instead they could have been forever saved if they had died in Christ. We must never forget that our salvation cost the death of God's only Son. It was the great exchange. He died so we could live His life for ours. Will you apply the blood of Christ to cleanse you from the guilt and shame of sin?
Something as delicious as a palm full of cashews or a slice of whole grain toast could reduce your risk of heart disease. The Adventist Health Study found that regularly eating nuts and whole grains carries a lower risk of coronary heart disease. This is good news. Brown rice, quinoa, and hazelnuts are all flavorful, heart-healthy foods. Nuts and whole grains could keep your ticker going for many more years. Regularly consuming nuts and whole grains is another ageless advantage.
Welcome back. We're talking today about sexual health, which might not be suitable for younger viewers. We're talking with Dr. Jane Morgan, sexual health physician, about genital ulcers. One cause is herpes, which we covered in the last segment. So I asked her about syphilis and what puts people at risk of this infection.
So for some time it's been, if I look back to 5 and definitely 10 years ago, it was predominantly amongst men who have sex with men. But over the last 5 years, we're now seeing that infection in just about anyone. The real concern about that is that if a woman has syphilis infection when she's pregnant, then that infection can be passed across the placenta to her baby. And it's a really serious infection for babies. So, and getting syphilis when pregnant, then there's a 40 to 50% chance that the baby will die. So it's really important that women have their pregnancy bloods. So it has always been the case that pregnancy bloods check for syphilis because we know that's such a serious infection. And I think because syphilis had become so uncommon, people had perhaps thinking, well, those bloods weren't so important.
So it's a blood test. It's not a swab, it's a blood test. That blood test is done for all pregnant women in most developed countries, checking to see if they have markers of syphilis, either current or in the past, right?
Yes, yeah. And it's great. And the wonderful thing is because that is an infection, so syphilis is an infection we can cure. So if a woman, if her blood test suggests that she has syphilis, and someone then has to assess, is it a new infection? Is it an old infection, as you just said? But if we think it's a new infection, if we treat a woman in pregnancy, the antibiotic goes across the placenta and treats her baby as well. So it cures her and it cures the baby. So those are, really
that's really good news. Any long-term effects for the baby? Or if you've got good treatment during pregnancy as baby's then safe?
Baby's safe.
Doesn't need treatment after birth?
No.
Okay. What if, now, does everyone with syphilis have symptoms?
Not everyone, or the symptoms are, back to what we were saying earlier, the symptoms can be so mild that people don't notice them. So the ulcer with syphilis doesn't tend to be uncomfortable. So someone will get a raw area on their skin, and that can heal up over a period of 2 or 3 weeks, and they may not be aware that they've had that, particularly if it's kind of tucked up inside skin folds. And then once that heals up, the infection tends to spread through the body, will cause a subtle rash, may cause swollen lymph nodes. But again, people can put that down to, you might think, well, I've got flu, I'm unwell from another reason, and may not process that
put
two together. So unless someone has a blood test, they may not be aware of it.
Right. And then long-term effects, if they're just not aware and it continues?
So it's a really nasty infection. So long-term, people who have untreated syphilis, then that can cause kidney damage, liver damage, deafness, blindness, brain damage. It's a really nasty infection. But again, it's back to the good news is it's actually really easy to treat. We hear about different infections becoming resistant to antibiotics, and so far we've been quite lucky with syphilis. There are some antibiotics that don't work for it, but penicillin works really well.
Wow.
So
and we've had penicillin for so long.
Yeah, and it's a really safe drug. It's safe in pregnancy. We have total confidence in it. So our main issue is making sure that people have ready access to testing, so that they can get treated and cured.
Yes, and hopefully before all that damage occurs to kidney, liver and brain. Now back to Karen, who went to a lifestyle centre to get her life back. She incorporated the 8 laws of health into her life. Watch as she shares more.
I would definitely recommend change of lifestyle to anybody. The track that I was on before was I was just going to die. I know I was going to die, a heart attack or a stroke. Changing my lifestyle, I feel half my age now. I'm full of energy. I look forward to the next 15, 20 years of continued good health and good life. If you're even thinking about changing your diet, just do it now before it's too late. I'm glad that I've done it before it's too late for me. I've got a lot of friends who are younger than me that are really, really sick with a lot of different things, and I know it's because of the bad habits they have, the bad diets they have. Education is everything, knowledge is everything. If you know how to look after yourself, if you know the 8 laws of health, if you know what to do, I highly recommend that you do it, because I just feel so good, and the good feeling for me, it's addictive. I love it, and I just want to stay like this for the rest of my life. So a combination of all the knowledge that I'd gained while I was at the health retreat, following the program religiously when I got home, and taking the Anna's Wild Jam Cream, helped me to get rid of the menopausal symptoms. I made a lot of changes when I went home. I followed the program religiously for 3 months, and taking the Anna's Wild Jam Cream, and a combination of a good diet, good exercise, no drugs, no tobacco, no alcohol, also taking Anna's Wild Jam Cream, I got rid of most of the menopausal symptoms, and then after about 5 months they all went away, and it's been 6 years now and they've never come back. I know how to look after my body, I know why I need to look after my body, I know more better how the body works. It's been great that I've been able to save myself, save my life, and look forward to many more years of great energy, feeling vitalised and renewed, and it's just great looking after yourself with fresh air, sunshine, good diet, and that I've got another chance at life.
Another chance indeed. The simple things are so powerful, like fresh air, sunshine and a clean diet. On today's show, we've seen that it also includes getting smears and sexual health checkups to look after yourself well. And when kids are 12 or so, you should seriously consider including the Hpv vaccine in their vaccination protocol to prevent cancer. While you might plan to only ever have one sexual partner, if that person has been with anyone else before you, there's always the risk of catching HPV, since 80% of the population gets it at least once. Now, we don't carry it our whole lifetime, but that risk is there. Remember, STIs don't always cause symptoms, yet can still be passed along. Other times, they cause ulcers or lumps and bumps, which need testing and treatment. That's all from me today. Thanks for joining us on Go Healthy for Good. I'll see you next time.